All right, we're recording today's session on challenges in remote teaching. We intend this to be a discussion. I'm gonna mute everyone for a second. So just unmute yourself if you need to speak. We have 3 faculty guests who I've talked with about some of their specific challenges. So I'd like to have them introduce themselves and just tell us what they teach. And we're going to go around in a little while and hear from everyone too. Tomoyo, do you mind going first?
Sure. So hi, I'm Tomoyo Kawano. I am at Antioch, New England. I teach the dance movement therapy courses. I direct the program, master's program.
Thank you. And Rosa.
Hello, I'm Rosa. I'm with Los Angeles campus, and I'm a part-time faculty with the undergraduate studies. I'm also a director of external partnerships there. So I have one foot in the classroom, one foot in the community. And what I teach in this quarter is Cinematic Los Angeles, which is a film analysis class that requires a lot of sharing visuals. So I have a few challenges that I've been working on.
All right, and Allison.
Hi everyone, Allison Henry in the Education Department on the New England campus. I teach in the Waldorf Teacher Education Program. And until last month, I had never used any online distance learning technology. We have always taught entirely face-to-face until last month.
All right. I see that people are adding to the brainstorming a list of challenges, and I'd like everyone who's interested to have an opportunity to tell us about a challenge they are experiencing or expect to experience if we have to continue teaching online for the rest of the summer and maybe even into fall. So anybody who is welcome or willing, please unmute yourself and tell us.
Yeah, this is Michael Simpson. I'm director of the Resource Management and Administration Program at the New England campus, and I'm also a wetlands ecologist. And the challenge, why I'm coming on here is the majority of our ecology courses are field-based, and they also have lab aspects to them. And so, I've been teaching online for a couple years with the help of Bonnie, and but bringing a field course onto online and making it robust is going to be a challenge for all the faculty in my program.
Thanks, Michael.
My name's Angela. I teach at the Santa Barbara campus, adjunct faculty, and my primary challenge is I teach law and ethics, which often is not a very fun subject for students, and I like to make it fun, but I'm having great difficulty with videos and playing songs and just things to have multimedia interaction within the class. And so videos are really kind of my top priority, little snippets of things.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm Siobhan Stewart in the Dance Movement Therapy Program at Antioch, New England. And this past semester, we've kind of been exploring with transitioning to this online platform, how to use music, but also have your voice heard at the same time when using Zoom. And so I did some research with looking at outside microphones, but I was just wondering if anyone has used outside microphones and how that works.
Okay, I do know that we have a couple people who are trying the same thing in their education classes for dancing and singing together.
And I'll let you know that we have in our department John Crockett, who's a sound ecologist, and he is very mature and very adept at recording sounds in nature, so that may help you too.
Okay. Great.
So I'll introduce myself. I'm Shira Musicant, and I haven't yet taught online. I will be this fall teaching in the somatic concentration at UCS at Santa Barbara, Antioch, Santa Barbara. And I'm a dance movement therapist. And so I'm very happy to have other dance movement therapists here. And I have also been really exploring some different sound and voice ideas. And so I'd love to talk more about that.
Thanks, Shira. All right. I'm going to repaste the link for anybody who's joined us back in the chat again. And I'm wondering if we should start with some of the dance and movement therapists, dance movement therapy questions about sharing sound and visuals. Tomoyo, do you want to talk about any experience you've had with that, or a couple of takeaways that you've learned from in the last few months of teaching DMT online?
Sure. So I want to preface this by saying that I'm not an expert, and along with other DMT faculty, we've been exploring different ways of trying things out. Like Siobhan said, so I think having outside sound source is one way to be able to include voice in a class setting. And there are also ways of sharing computer sound. I think depending on the connection, there could be glitches. So sometimes just sharing the playlist in advance could be helpful in case the students can't synchronously engage in the content, music, and voice together. I also think it might be useful to explore ways of moving without sound, but using voice as cues, or ways to sort of, I don't know, create rhythm together, moving together, that experience. Something that has worked is to maybe have separate breakout rooms, and then, you know, having smaller groups do explore the material and then come back in the larger group. And then there are also ways of, you know, moving together, but again, utilizing just voice cues, vocal cues, and sounds that is not separated from other sound sources.
Okay. Sorry, I'm taking some notes in the shared thing to try to capture all of these suggestions. Feel free to edit anything that I put in there to clarify. A little bit later, someone else will be joining us, and I understand that there are some DMT websites out there that have some explicit information on how you can work with sound in different ways in Zoom. One way, you'll see that Rosa's on with her video, and Rosa's phone is also on. So perhaps you can use your phone to play music into the mic on your computer, where you can adjust the volume and speak at the same time. So if you're using your computer's microphone during your class and you also want to play music, you could play the music on your phone, and then you have that option to control it on a separate device so it doesn't overlay Zoom and get in the way, and you can sort of test it out. I highly recommend with all of these things that you test them with other people in the room before your live class to see how successful they are. What doesn't work in Zoom so well is when you have two microphones talking at the same time. So if Allison and I were both talking, Zoom would somehow decide which one of us to play at individual second, and it might go a little back and forth. It would play my voice for a second, and then
it might play my voice for a second, and then
right. So you don't have any control if you are using two different microphones. Plus, if they're in the same room, you'll be getting a lot of feedback. I'd be happy to explore, to help you test some sound ideas like that in one of our practice sessions. Harold has some late in the evening, like 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern, and I usually have one or two a week. And if you can't make those times, just propose another time when we can get together and maybe bring in a third colleague to see if everyone's setup is sort of works in that way. Rosa, did you want to add any takeaways from some of the things you've been doing with sharing multimedia? Do you want me to unmute you? All right, you need to unmute yourself because I have unmuted you.
Yes, yes. I was looking at the other screen. I wanted to ask you to please unshare so that I can share some information.
Perfect. I'd be happy to do that. There you go. All yours.
Thank you. So, so just a tiny presentation, guys, not too fancy. First of all, when I share the screen, as everybody knows, you share the screen and the audio, and for the audio and video quality, that you check those boxes, which I'm gonna do right now. And I'm also gonna share a second screen because I had to expand my desktop to be able to share things. So that's that one takeaway, to the possibility of second screen that you can plug to the computer. They're very easy to plug into the computer. And now I'm gonna share. I'm gonna get rid of this one. Okay, so just a tiny note for this presentation. Wanted to share with you guys. Use the chat to enter questions that I might be able to answer later. Very important, turn your Zoom video and microphone off, because when you are sharing video or sharing information, there's a lot of data, and the less data that you are using with your own video and your own mic is better. So that's what I recommend my students to do, and that works. The other thing is just when silent, just use the hand raising emoji and the thumbs up if something is working, especially if I ask you, you're hearing what I'm sending you. One of the tricks here, when you are sharing information from your computer and you still have your headphones on, you want to also show, or that goes for Siobhan. Siobhan, is if you are sharing sound that is not only coming from the computer, but coming from the outside, you need sometimes to remove your headphones, because sometimes you're somehow blocking sound that is coming to people. So you just need to practice with those, play with those, because I don't see any formula, but that's something there. So my challenge was to find the Zoom equivalent of my essential setup on campus, right? And I'm notorious on my campus, and I have the wonderful support of people on my campus, because I always need, because I compare and contrast lots of visual information from multiple sources, and create interaction to have an engagement with minimal downtime. I need certain setup, and then my setup typically is I have a DVD with its own screen, like a TV screen, and then I also have a smart board that is connected to the computer, like computer projector, so I can navigate the internet there, but also I can upload there other DVDs or materials, and I can browse, and I have my browser open with certain windows that I'm gonna use, of course, that everybody does that, but I use also the whiteboard. So when I interact with students, I also use a flip chart. So I'm taking notes, annotating, moving in the classroom all the time. Yes.
Can you speak just a little bit slower for me?
Sure. What I do with this setup is that it gives me the possibility to be shifting from one source of information to another in a very interactive classroom. So that way I can access my own collection of DVDs. I have video clips posted on my Google Drive, and I have access to digital collections like the Canopy of Netflix or any other that I need to share with students. And lately, you know, the gray screen that comes up when you are sharing video, trying to share a DVD, you have this horrible gray screen. And so that's what led me to explore options. So the idea, the bottom line is to prevent data streaming overload when sharing footage that is lengthy than 2 or 3 minutes. If I need to share something longer, what I'm gonna do in the middle of the class to have everything crashing. So I was thinking about that, and I had serious conversations about this with Bonnie, and a lot of wonderful support from you guys. You're amazing, of the kinds of guidance that you have been giving us. So this is what I did. Now my Zoom classroom looks like this. I have my desktop computer. I have my second monitor that just expands the size of my same desktop. That's the reason you see looking me that way, because I'm looking at the PowerPoint. And then the phone, I use the phone in a tripod like this. This tripod has very flexible legs, and I have my phone there, the other phone there. And then the phone logs in the Zoom as though it's another participant, okay? So you can see there somewhere the phone is there. In my classroom, instead of saying Rosa's phone, it says, watch me. So that students can go there and pin that video and start watching what I'm gonna show, because that video is pointing out to my second screen. So Firefox, I have my browser with different things there that I need in a class. And in this case, like let's say that I want to approach film noir analysis, so I'm gonna have to share different kinds of things. Some ideas from the just very basic ideas that is just like a plain and simple PowerPoint stuff, right? The basic ideas that you share with the students. Then the characters, again, a little bit of movement so that their eyes change the topic. But then here I have my first link that I can stream. Instead of showing you with my phone, I can stream it because it's very short. Just let me give you a sense of this. I embedded a link here that goes directly to my Google Drive videos. So I have a clip there. And I suppose the sound should go well.
Wow.
Is that okay?
Hi, welcome to FilmmakerIQ.com. Today we're going to look at how to light for film noir.
So something I do every time I share things with students, I insert this sticky before sharing it. Do you see the sticky?
Mm-hmm.
Rosa, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Michael Simpson. You said you embedded this in your Google Drive. So Bonnie, can we embed this in the resources of the Sakai site we're on?
Yes, you could. Well, depending on where the video is hosted, and how, if it's a YouTube video or a Vimeo video, it's very easy to embed. If it's on your Google Drive, which is totally possible, Rosa, can you click the 3 vertical dots in the upper right corner of your?
Just let me take my sticky away.
Okay.
Okay, the three dots that are here next to my ID here.
Yep. When you're viewing your video, you'll see there's an embed item. Can you click embed item? So Michael, if your video is in your drive or shared in somebody else's drive, you have to copy that embed code and paste it in the source code of your lessons page if it's not a Vimeo or a YouTube video. Because
Okay. Yeah, I know how to do that.
Yeah, perfect. So that's where you
Thanks.
get the embed video if it's in Google Docs.
Okay.
Embed.
And Bonnie, does the same apply for embedding a video in a PowerPoint presentation? Can you do the same thing in a PowerPoint presentation?
I haven't tested embedding a video in a PowerPoint presentation. You can embed a video in a PowerPoint presentation,
Yes.
but I'm not sure how it works when you try to play it. So you'll just need to test it. PowerPoint has been a little finicky. I've been working with a couple people using it, and on a Mac, it splits the screen and puts it on two screens and does different things. It's not that it won't work, but certainly open Zoom and test it with one other user to make sure it plays.
By the way, like about splitting PowerPoint in two screens when you present happens only when your PowerPoint file is on your desktop. If you present PowerPoint using the show the slides, Google Slides feature, because it's uploaded in your drive and you just open slides, then it won't do that funky thing. Because it's very disorienting to lose your audience, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So this, I'm gonna stop this one, and I'm gonna go back to, let me see, I close it. Back here. So that's one of the ways that I share information. Then there's another way here that is, again, streaming, and depending on how I'm gonna be streaming this, let's say that I just want a few minutes. So I, again, embedded here, to your point, Michael, or someone asked this, I embedded here going to Canopy. And I'm going to Canopy because on Canopy, I have on this...
Ideas of Toland and Wells about deep focus and deep space excited filmmakers around the world. Look at the depth of this scene in the Maltese Falcon. Humphrey Bogart's thumb, no more than 20 centimeters from the camera, is clearly in focus. Look at this incredible scene in a bar in the best years of our lives. The old...
So that was that, embedding that option. But if I wanted to show a full-length video from Canvas, from Canopy, there, the first thing I do again is go with this. Okay, I'm sharing something, and then you're not sharing what I'm sharing. I do that, and then once I remove my sticky, and then I would turn off my phone. But my phone, I'm not gonna turn it right now for this. Rather, I'm gonna show you in the next slide when I use the bonus features from one DVD, which is my main, was my main problem or struggle when we learned that we were going Zoom. I thought, but I use a lot of the bonus features of my DVDs, and where I'm gonna find those, so etc. So they're very educational, and I said, how am I gonna do that? So what I did is this. Where's my DVD? First of all, I need to bring my DVD player here, which you know that you look great, right? You see that looks great. Now we're gonna stop great because I'm gonna stop sharing. So I'm not gonna share, and now my phone is the one that is gonna show you that. So let me show you another sticky. Another sticky is,
You can't see your screen. You stop sharing so we won't see your sticky.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh my sticky says, hold on a second while I adjust my text settings.
So what Rosa's sharing is playing the video on, playing a physical DVD on another device or something like that. Or you can play it on your TV and then point your webcam at the TV and get the mic close to the TV so that they're actually watching the video on your television. It's sort of a desperate workaround for those materials that you have physically in your hands, like a bonus materials that you can't necessarily get online.
So you can please pin my phone video by clicking on the three dots that you're gonna see next to my video that says Rosa's phone, and pin it.
If anybody having trouble pinning?
Pinning, everyone?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So now what you're seeing is the same amount of data that you would see if you see a person. So there's no overload. So you can show anything, like this magnificent bonus feature that is so useful when you are talking about film
If I
noir.
had one movie to show people to explain what noir is.
That get you, baby?
It's Double Indemnity.
I won't tell you what happens. but okay, so that's.
So Rosa,
Yes.
I was able to pin, but where were you showing, where was that on your system so that people?
That's exact. Thank you for asking, Michael. That's exactly the magic here is that if I need to show a lot of images and I don't want to stream them or share my screen because that would overload the system and maybe crash in the middle of the class. So what I did is that I have another participant in class that is my phone. So my phone is watching my second screen. When I turn my phone's video on, instead of seeing the face of a person, you see what the phone is looking at, which is the screen. You see what I mean?
That's great. Yeah, I understand.
So that's the reason I insist on this disclaimer about copyright, because that's a, I imagine that people that do this illegal copying of movies use exactly that same system. Because you put a tripod that you can take any video of anything, depending on your quality, you can do that. So what I don't want is to just model practice that is not acceptable. So I always put this ethical issue there that we are using this information just because we need it in this context, but you are not shooting screens or like recopying anything because that's not ethical. So that's that answers your question, Michael.
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you, Rosa.
Okay, so now it's sharing my screen again, just quickly. This one, share my screen. So now you don't see my phone, you just see my other screen that have the PowerPoint. We talk a little bit with the students about those things and then cut. That's when my class ends. And then, so I don't know, I asked my students how at the pace, the flow, because one of my main concerns is how can I replicate with all these different variables, moving parts, the atmosphere of my typical class that is so interactive, it's engaging, doesn't have downtime, doesn't have glitches. So I'm aiming at recreating that. I don't think I'm fully there yet. But I'm on my way and I feel very supported by everyone in my program and here. So it's like, it's gonna work out. More questions? No? Yeah. Okay.
All right. Allison, how do you feel about offering some tips after that?
That is a hard act to follow, Rosa. What amazing work you've done. It's great. And thank you for sharing it. I've got a couple of great new ideas to bring. I will just say that I found myself in a position of sharing a lot of content in a 5-day period. So it was meant to be a 5-day intensive face-to-face in Santa Barbara, where we would have been able to sing together and move together. And as it turned out, that was canceled. And with about 2 weeks notice, I had to reimagine it as an online course. So there's only a couple of things that I think I really want to share today. And that is, for every day, so I was with the students for 5 days, twice a day, and they had other courses online when they didn't have me. So they had a lot of time online. Every morning, or I should say, for every day, I created a PowerPoint presentation. So imagine for each day, there was like 100-slide long PowerPoint that was very image rich, a lot of inspirational quotations. And those PowerPoint presentations were available a full week before the beginning of classes in Sakai. And as part of their homework, I asked each student to look at the PowerPoint for the next day, the night before in preparation. So I wanted everyone to have gone through that 100-slide PowerPoint and have begun to digest that, so that when I came in the next day, they weren't encountering information for the first time. They had already begun to work with it and digest it. And then we proceeded in the morning session to have a really rich conversation about it. And they broke out into groups, and we also had large group discussions. So it was really critical that they had digested content, a significant amount of content, the night before they came in. And it was amazing. You could tell who had not watched the PowerPoint in advance. It was very clear. Those who had were able to come with a real depth of question and insight that the few others did not. Now, I mentioned I had them twice a day. By the time I had them at the end of the day, they had already spent over 5 hours on Zoom when they were starting my second session. So I really rethought how to even spend that time. And that last session was an hour and a half. I always brought them in for a check-in at the beginning to sort of re-ground us, but then and I'm going to try to explain how I stumbled across this, and then the response was so positive the first day that I ran with it. It was an hour and a half session, and I spent the first 15 to 20 minutes grounding us and bringing us back together and giving them a really thought-provoking question. Then I stayed in Zoom. I was working at my desk. I'm right there. I sent them off to find a quiet space outside in nature to sit and journal on a question for anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, their choice. I stayed in Zoom the whole time, and I encouraged them to leave their Zoom link active and just shut down their camera and their audio. And the nice thing was that on several occasions, students would 10 minutes in have a question or want to check in with me and make sure that they were doing the right thing, or that they had to understand the direction. And they knew at any moment they could open up that video and I would be right there. And that turned out to be just a really reassuring connection for many students during that time. Now, I gave them some flexibility on when they checked back in with me. So around the 20 to 30 minute mark, students would begin to filter back in the room. Sometimes only had one at a time, sometimes had only had two at a time. We would chat for a bit, somebody else would chime in, we would chat. And then they knew that the next thing to do once they checked in with me was, again, leave their Zoom connection active, but just close down their audio and video. They then went and they had a half an hour to begin the homework in Sakai for the night. Again, I'm right there the whole time. So they might get 15 minutes into beginning their homework in Sakai, posting and reflecting, and have a question about how I'm using terminology or need me to define a term. All they have to do is pop in and I'm right there at my desk. And I stumbled across that on the first day, and the feedback was incredibly positive. Also, I was working with a significant time zone difference where I was 3 hours different from my students. And I wanted to make sure that when I was sound asleep, they weren't looking for feedback on the homework, right? They could easily have been doing homework well after I was gone to bed. So having them start the homework while we were still, in session together was great, because then the last 20 minutes of the session, we came back together for a check-in. And in that last 20 minutes, many of them, something would have popped up when they had started their homework and they wanted to discuss it before they went back. So again, we had an opportunity to really get all the questions out, all terms defined. Everybody was really confident. When we were done with the session, they knew what they needed to do for me before the next day. The only other thing I'd like to, Bonnie, am I okay with time? Can I share one more thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing that I wanted to share is that in the weeks leading up to our session, the students had a couple of books that they had to read to me, and they had to send me a week before the beginning of class was their deadline. They had to send me 10 substantive questions for every book they read for me. I took all those questions and I really processed through all those questions in that final week before class began. And I was especially looking for themes, common threads, common themes. And then at the end of every session, I spent about 5 minutes giving a mini talk directly to the questions that they had sent me ahead of time. And in that mini talk, I would quote their questions. And it was amazing how powerful a feedback that was for the students to hear their questions voiced, to hear that somebody else and other students had had similar questions, and then for me to speak for 2 to 3 minutes on a question. So you can imagine I had them 10 times, twice a day for 5 days. So 10 sessions, I spent a little mini period specific. I never talked for very long, but addressing those questions that had filtered in. Likewise, again, on this same, I quickly realized how much their faces lit up when they heard their own words reflected back to them. So starting the second day, I hadn't planned this, but starting the second day, I would wake up in the morning and read everything they had posted in their homework the night before. Luckily, the time zones change benefited me because I was up way before they were. So I woke up and read all of their assignments that they had posted the night before. And the very first thing I would do in the morning was reflect back to them some of the most beautiful sharings, little snippets that they had written themselves, literally quoting their words. And again, it was amazing how across this divide of Zoom, how I could visibly see them light up when they heard their own words spoken by me. That's something that I stumbled across on day 2 because I was so inspired by what they had shared in their homework. And seeing their response, I continued that pattern every other day. So every morning, the very first thing they heard was they heard me reflecting back the beauty of their own words. And I would peck and pick so that every student heard some of their own words spoken in the wrap up. And Bonnie, that's what really my big takeaways were.
Thanks. What I'm really hearing and thinking about, as the three of you have mentioned that, and even through the questions that people are asking, is about actively engaging the students in a way that works with the timing. So in an intensive, you see them 10 times in 5 days, and you need some space for them to process. So in an intensive class, you provided some space by having them walk away with journaling or start their homework before the end of the session so that you would be available for questions when they needed you. And I think designing the shape of your course around when you're going to have the opportunity to speak to students, engage with students visually, like synchronously, is really important how you use that time. You know, if you're engaging around a clip that Rosa was showing, and it's a little 5-minute clip or something like that, and then you're talking about it, you really need that experience of having watched that clip together so that you're all in the same place and then can discuss it. And I think that finding the ways that you can make those experiences valuable and not just filling class time with, an hour-long video or whatever. I think that it's really important, and that's what I hear people really wanting to care about. You know, Michael's question about, you know, how do you do an ecology course that's field-based and lab-based? How do you make those times when you are together important and valuable, and not just sitting and staring at a screen? Because I think people forget they're sitting and staring at a screen when they're engaged in the material. When 5 hours of, you know, 5 hours will get anybody, you know, stuck outside of engagement, you know, a lot. But if you're picking, you know, your materials and your methods specifically for a really engaging time, then I think that that's a great way of keeping the students energized during what could be difficult in these Zoom classroom challenges. I do want us to talk more about some of the outdoor education challenges, you know, being away from your desk. Does anybody want to, Michael, do you want to talk about a specific example from your field-based course? Because what do? You guys go to a site and experience how the land is being managed or used, or?
Yeah, we actually go and look at the gestalt, the whole ecosystem, and then we get down to, you know, either assemblages or species on the landscape, and really talk about them in the context of, you know, where they're found. And we usually, you know, there's a number of parameters we use, is whether it's a high nutrient site or a low poor nutrient site, whether it's a wet site or a drier site, etc. And, you know, if they're found there, how does the related species change, and why is that? And then I know Jim teaches a non-biology course. Jim Jordan teaches a Earth systems geology course. So I think he's going to have some of the same issues. So if Jim, you're still there, you want to pipe in?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And we've been thinking about this in our faculty a little bit. I also direct the field studies curriculum for the environmental studies department. So that comprises of several field courses in the curriculum. And so we have several courses that are field-based, as Michael mentioned earlier. And so my Earth Systems course, I have, it's dominantly on campus, face-to-face, 15 weeks, but I've built in 4 field days, and those explore geology and soils and hydrology. So I have some ideas about the geology piece of it. The hydrology piece I'm not so sure about, or the soils piece, because that does really require you know, getting your hands dirty or getting wet, and so I'm still struggling a little bit with how to capture that, or how to have assign students to do that kind of work on their own if their physical environment allows. So it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, are you considering things like going out into the field and taking a video of yourself inspecting the soil, or, you know, the earth, you know?
Yeah. And I think Michael has been thinking about that too. And John Crockett's been reviewing some of the technology beyond smartphones that can do that. But the point is I think we really want to, I mean, I kind of enjoyed doing that myself, but I wanted to make sure that students, to the degree they can, have an opportunity to do what I'm doing in a similar environment.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, students, it would be a gross generalization to say that all students or most students are more comfortable than some of us are using our technology, but being able to take your phone into the field, and most phones have just a free video software, but even Zoom, they can record a Zoom of themselves on their phone, and yeah, if possible, bring samples back. I think a lot of it will come down to being able to describe the color and the texture. I mean, we should all realize that the colors that we see on everyone's video may be different in reality than the colors that are really there, because, you know, the video captures its color, it has a color profile. So if you are using video for something as specific as, you know, soil color or something like that, or even texture, because the graininess of the footage might not be great, that's something to consider if you're using a video for that up close and personal work, that very detailed work that a student might need to use their descriptive words more than, because they can't share the same experience exactly together.
Yeah, that's a great point. And especially with regard to soils, and Michael knows this as well, is that much of a description is about looking at and interpreting differences in soil color and texture, and how to do that. Now, what comes to mind is I would need to front load the field part of that assignment with keys to identifying soils or soil textures and colors and what that means. So that's something that we do in class. We go through a lab exercise about determining soil texture and color and across a range, and then we go into the field. So
yeah, but even when I do the lab part of it, it's still, you're touching something and you're looking at it and you're feeling it.
Yeah.
And I suspect that'll be a really engaging part of the process for them, even if they're small experiences, because it's different than what they're doing in all of their other classes as well. I mean, your ES students will probably be all over the place. Rosa, did you want to chime in?
I just wanted to share this, that is, nothing is gonna replace the experiential connection with the physical world, right? But right now there's all these other, like a plan B, plan C possibilities. Technology is progressing immensely. And I've been flirting, and I say really flirting because I need to educate myself more about with this virtual reality kind of thing. So because if you have access to a 3D video that is already in the internet, a 3D video that is there, and then you have this $3.99 Google's, $3.99, that's the price of this thing. So then you immerse yourself immediately in that environment. So I think this technology is still a little bit primitive, or not primitive, I would say not quite incorporated in critical mass. So accessing 3D videos is not that easy to find. But I think it's worth investigating. I'm in charge of the internship program in my program. So field studies are important for me. And I think the key is always, as Alison was saying, is like in the prompts, the engagement, the reflection, and the prompts. And that kind of stuff it can compensate for everything that we are losing right now in the digital world. But I was thinking that virtual reality is something to consider, but I have no clue how to use it yet. So I just.
All right, so she's gonna start a virtual reality faculty club. Okay.
That would be nice.
Maybe some environmental studies faculty may wanna join in on that. So we have 7 minutes left, and I imagine I have missed some people's challenges or comments. So I just want to allow this time for anybody to comment or propose a challenge. I know.
I have one, Eliza. I teach nature-based early childhood curriculum in New England, and intensive 1-week class in the summer. How about how to share like artwork or something that is not paper, like they can't hold it up, like nature-based art, but something that is made physically, say like a design out of natural materials. Is there like a Seesaw app where they could use their phone and take a picture? I'm trying to think how to quickly, everybody can kind of make a gallery of their work.
Okay.
That's like, it's kind of a simple thing. So there's hopefully a simple answer.
I think there might be a couple of things. One, people could take their phone, turn on Zoom, and take a video of their work from different angles. And Zoom will, when they have done that, Zoom will send them a link to it. And that says, here's the link that you can share with others. And you could, if it were video based, share those links with the whole class on a shared Google Doc like ours is. So I'll share my screen again. You know, if you had a Google Doc that perhaps was something like the nature-based art projects, each student's name could just be linked to their video. And if some students wanted to do a video, great. If some students wanted to take a photograph and put it in their Google Drive, they could send you the link to that photo. Or if you just wanted only 2D, you could have everyone share the photos with you. And there are some tools online for uploading a quick little slideshow. WordPress, if you had a WordPress blog site, there's a tool called Soliloquy. You just drag and drop all your photos into it. You tell it how quickly you want it to transition. And there are some other gallery things like that, but I think you could very easily search Google for make a slideshow or make a photo gallery, and basically just upload a bunch of photos. And I could help you do something similar in, you know, a Word document, or even in Sakai, it would be relatively easy to upload a series of photos or videos for people to see. Other people have thoughts about how they would do that? I think the audio sound of nature, or wherever this piece is that they've created, might be an extra part of the experiencing other people's artwork too. The environment around.
And I just thought, like, I could use Rosa's, if people were doing their Zoom on their desktop, but they have a phone, they can take their phone and then just show it to their camera, to the Zoom camera, right?
Yeah,
and that's more immediate.
Phone, on iPad, even if they have a phone or an iPad, even a digital camera with a display on the back. My digital camera has a display this big, and I can bring it right up to here if I just have it on any digital camera. So it allows students to use what they have available to them. And I think that's an important component of the flexibility, not saying everybody must do a video or everybody must do a photo. Allowing them to do the less technologically difficult thing is always a great option. But for people who want to do a little bit more, allowing them to just turn on their Zoom video on their phone and take a quick video, and then they can either play it like this or they can show it. They could use, like, if they're used to using iMovie on their phone, you don't have to use Zoom. I have no problem with letting you use whatever you're most comfortable with for making these materials that you want to share. But we can certainly look at some websites and tools that would make it easy for students to upload. Maybe they could put them all in Dropbox, and then you could share that Dropbox folder on your screen in the large icon size or something like that. Anyone else? I know we're running right up to 2 o'clock. I'm going to stop the recording now, but I'll stay on for questions for a couple more minutes.